welcome to Modern Blood, and welcome to episode 4 of Valley of Blood, a Warlock actual play. We pick back up from the investigations of the party as they try and track down the missing bishop, Victor von Hoffman. As their search goes on, they've learned things were not peaceful at home, with the wife both missing and possibly a heretic. They also learned that the priest was possibly nabbed off a bridge by the Red Sash's mercenaries from Nisia. So, what is this complex past of Svelsing and Nisia? Well, Nisia, a large eastern empire, invaded the small valley nation over 300 years ago and fiercely occupied it. It was the last of the southern nations to fall to Nisia and represented the height of their progress. Bloody battles were fought, with nomadic warriors retreating to the hills and forests, waging a guerrilla war that lasted decades. The last Svalish king died after a long siege, from which tales of desperation and survival through cannibalism emerged. Once defeated, the mighty Blittenberg mountain range stopped Nisia extending further west into Strussland, so an uneasy tension settled over the border for 3 centuries, while Nisia set about assimilating the small nation. Svelsing was the last of the southern pagan nations, practicing the long-lost and forbidden old ways. It then became another Celerius worshipping state with its subjugation by Nisia. Though tales of old beliefs lingered in the rural areas, Nisia was quick to seek out and make examples of any who practiced the old paganism openly. Not much is known of the specifics of what went on, however. Nisia was fiercely secretive and locked off, not allowing any outside eyes to pry in. But around 50 years ago, with little apparent warning, Nisia withdrew its forces and many of its colonists back to the east, leaving Svelsing free. Though very much dependent on its old master state, many of its citizens, especially of those who had found wealth and fortune in Svelsing, chose to stay, leaving a rich multicultural peoples behind. Other similar withdrawals happened across the western border, and mirroring the same sort of de-establishment of a nation. And to this day, no one in the West really is sure why this happened. All that is known is Nisia has gotten even more protective of its borders, and there are rumours of a strict theocracy brutally putting down dissenters and blasphemers beyond the border. However, Svelsing for now is free, open to influence from its western neighbour, Strussland, which hungrily eyed a chance for expansion and influence. That, however, is a tale for next time. For now, back to the adventure. Sit down, get cozy, and listen along. Right, so it's been an evening since your discussion the night before. The accommodation at the embassy is certainly suitable. It's of pretty exceptional quality for the most part. It's a nice old state house with a state house I should say, within the grounds of the city, and you've certainly slept quite comfortably and a relative level of luxury, not full-on lordly luxury, but much more than either of your characters probably commonly used to, especially once you're out plying the trades that you ply. But the morning rolls around, and I'd assume that you gather for breakfast, which is provided naturally, and you get to pick up where you left off in the previous night's discussions.
There's a really horrible thing to do here, and that's be like, so Liam, what does Strussland breakfast look like?
I was going to ask you actually. what do your characters have for breakfast?
It's probably got to be, this is a German analog, I guess, so got to be some kind of ridiculous breakfast sausage. And some,
right, but you also there'd be an element of local cuisine too, because you're living.
True.
Like it's not like there's freezers in this setting. You can't. So it'd be cured meats from home and
combined
local
with
bits
whatever
and pieces.
local fare you can get from the local farmers markets, which I don't know what products they produce here.
I mean,
in terms of
considering the Slavic touch, I'd say rye bread.
Yeah.
Rye bread, maybe porridge. I don't know if we would eat porridge, but I mean, lots of people did, and it's good. So I can imagining Akenchrist slaying a bowl of porridge in the morning.
It's camp food, you know. You're probably used to that on campaign.
With a bit of small beer.
Yeah, I was thinking, what spirits?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's nothing stopping you drinking before the. We're not living in the modern age where you're frowned upon or an alcoholic if you're drinking before midday. Quite frankly,
and a lot of it's
in previous eras of. Yeah, like in previous eras of human history, we'd look at a lot of them as alcoholics.
I mean,
and also, depending on the quality of the infrastructure, the water might not be great here anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
it might be more advisable. It'd be the equivalent of going overseas and drinking bottled water.
Most of the time, like small beer, it was not very alcoholic at all. It was just like slightly brewed to get all the badness out. So it was kind of.
We probably are.
Yeah, we probably are drinking some kind of beer.
Are.
And some porridge and maybe some breakfast sausage. I don't know what else.
Some cheese.
For some reason, all I'm imagining is a Eastern European themed champagne breakfast.
Just give me a second,
Yeah. I feel like that's got to be, if you do images or thumbnails, that's got to be it. Is some model.
We'll assume this is quite a large building, so it's not like you're in like a central dining hall or anything like that. It would be a small room that sort of exists to serve the needs of guests coming and going, because no doubt they host a lot of other sort of merchants and things coming from Strassland and stuff like that. So it makes sense that they would have. It's like almost as much of a hotel as it is a stately building, because it sort of exists to serve the interest of home, and quite
it's
often that involves
government building that is palatial, but like it's super functional. So there's offices and there's lodgings and there's workspaces and all this stuff in here.
Absolutely. The sort of buildings, like I can't help but think of old James Bond's, right? Where he'd go to some strange land and meet some guy who his office is also his bedroom, is also his, like those classic those old world films, right? So like that, but hundreds of years in the past, and that's sort of what I'm imagining. So you're in one of these sort of situations. Your characters are sitting there, and I guess you're finalising your plan for the morning. The only other person present is Maynard, with he quickly checks his NPC notes, with von Hartmann, Matthias Hartmann, sorry, the bishop, and Veronica absent.
Well, I guess that's probably the good place for the conversation to be, is coming in and us just speculating. It's like, because they didn't leave a note or anything, did they? It was just a message they've saying, hey, doing church stuff.
Yeah, we can assume that one of the servants, as they're bringing you out food, let you know that they left in the night on church business, and that you're advised to inform the embassy on any activities or anywhere that, if you were leaving town for whatever reason or anything like that, inform the embassy and that would coordinate. So if you had to go anywhere, leave any messages, it would get back to them, or vice versa. But the only message so far is that is from Hartmann specifically, not from anyone else. Hartmann stating Veronica and I away on church business, coordinate via the embassy, basically.
I tell you, it's bloody typical of the damn church. Come along on this sort of thing, more of a burden than anything else, and then they swan off to do God knows what.
You know what Veronica's trade is, don't you? It's not.
It ain't
that's
about
not.
that.
That's not church business. They're not going preaching and praying. they have something else in order.
That's the funny thing, is it all is church business at the end of the day. They might profess otherwise, but it's more, I hope they're not going to go make things a whole bunch worse down here. I mean, I don't know if you recognise Artman, but I don't think, I don't trust them to be
intelligent?
Discreet.
No. He's a fool and a pomped puff.
He wasn't exactly the most likely to keep the pressure lid on this pressure cooker, you know. Pot's going to boil over at some point, and I think he's putting a whole bunch of fire on the kindling under the fire.
Definitely. I wouldn't want to see a war start, after all. Anyway, now gone. I presume they'll be back at some point, preferably alive. But, well, what's the plan, Lawrence?
Well, not much different from last night, is it? Figure out what Adolf knows about the red sashes and maybe leave a little note for them to send back to Strussland, and then go chase down this, what was his name? Albrecht.
Yes. It's the most reasonable course of action.
I will tell you that I don't think Adolf's going to know much about anything.
I don't doubt it. I'm becoming more and more expecting that something's going on here. I don't like it.
I didn't realise.
Well, we don't have to like it, old boy. We just need to get Freda a satisfactory reason for the priest's disappearance, and then we leave.
Hopefully without making things a whole bunch worse in the meantime.
Maynard shrugs at that.
Lorenz has actually got a pointedly being like, don't forget that.
I had some comment here about not working for... we're not all working for the Baron, but there we go, I forgot it.
Well, Maynard definitely is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just have to find this goddamn name. Give me a second. Just go on.
You're looking for the Baron's name?
I keep wanting to say Harkonnen, but I've just been in...
Yeah, that's a different thing.
in June too much.
Ah, von Kruber.
It's von Kruber.
Von Kruber.
Yeah, so Victor looks at Maynard and is like, we're not all on von Kruber's payroll, like some others, huh?
Well, Maynard sort of looks at you pointing and goes, well, old boy, you're working for the Kaiser, yeah? Who do you think's paying the Kaiser at the moment? Listen here, old boy, we're all working for somebody, whether we know it or not.
I'm just saying we have different orders, old boy.
He doesn't seem to react to the jab. He goes back to his meal. His meal is mostly meat. He's one of these toxic masculine motherfuckers who's just like, give me meat and beer.
Is he slobbering the beer too? Like it's going, like bits running around his mouth?
No, because he's well educated. He's from good stock. Yeah. No, he definitely is.
So he eats with
composed.
a knife and fork. He's not just holding a chicken leg and going.
Yeah, no. I don't like the sound of eating. Don't do that. So yeah, breakfast concludes, and I'm assuming you seek out Adolf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wait a while. He's doing a bunch of duties and things in his office, but after maybe sort of 20 minutes, a half an hour of waiting, you're ushered into his office. It's quite a It's quite a sort of very stately looking office. We're talking lots of, sort of oak paneling and things like that, and it's very nice in here. He's got a large desk, sort of like a leather sort of nailed onto the top of it to act as a nice surface for writing on and things like that. And because I've already made the reference to previous James Bond movies, there is a bed off to one side of the room, so it's not only his office but it's also his chambers. And he welcomes you in, offers you a seat, and sort of looks up, and quite possibly appears to have a split personality for listeners of our earlier sessions, because this has been several weeks since I've played this character, and I can't promise you that I remember how he acts. So we'll see how this goes, shall we? We'll ride this one together, Fano. We'll see how this goes.
Just tweet at Liam and complain about how
He used to have a German accent. Why is he speaking in a French accent now?
Why is he Polish now? When did he become Polish?
It's working for the enemy, clearly. Anyway, let's go on.
And then halfway through he was South African. It's really bizarre.
Right, welcome to my embassy. No, he welcomes you and he invites you to take a seat, and sort of, asks, how is the investigation going?
Well, I will say, the amount of time we've been here, we're actually making great progress. We're actually pretty much leaving a little report for you to send back to Strussland, or compile to get ready to send back to Strussland. And also I got a couple of questions about some local issues you might be able to help us with. Seeing as you're the man on the ground, so you should have all of this knowledge at your fingertips.
He gives you a wry smile and goes, well, I can try.
This rye is the bread we had for breakfast.
Absolutely.
So I guess the first thing will be a bit of a debrief. So, best we can tell, Artman was snatched by some red sashes, taken across the river in the middle of the night. Now, no signs so far that Freda actually went with him. And at the residence, there was some evidence there that she might have been involved in some unorthodox learnings. So we're trying to figure out who her contacts were that she was socialising with in town, because they were less than orthodox. And also, just from what we've been gathering, Artman was actually pretty well liked in parts of town, and that's probably made him say he was being very successful with the populace, and that's probably made him a bit of an enemy. So we're trying to figure out two things. What's the deal with the red sashes and the connection with the prince? What the prince might have against Artman particularly. And also, we've got to chase down contacts with Freda, because she's still persona non grata.
So while you're talking, he's scribbling this all down, sort of scratching it down on a piece of paper, and he sort of looks over it and goes, so this Freda and this cult, this stuff, this strange unorthodox things you're talking about, what strange how?
Eastern cultists, it seems.
I would say a bit of a local, close to the local teachings. Not entirely certain at this stage, other than that it's clearly not strictly our church's teachings.
It didn't seem like it was clearly the teachings of the current mainstream of the Easterners either, though. Did it? It's not my understanding anyway.
Mate, you got the drawing on you still?
Yeah, I'm sure he does. So he'd present it, and yeah, sort of. Kruber looks at it. Was it Kraus? Kraus or Kruber? I've got all my
Kruber was the Baron. Kraus was the ambassador.
Kraus looks at it, and he sort of looks at it, and he sort of like shrivels up his nose, you know, as he's sort of looking at it and goes, seems a bit wishy-washy to me.
Right. The point is, she was meeting with people behind Artman's back, trying to keep it on the down low from him, because it wasn't teachings that he'd agree with. They were trying to figure out if there's a connection of foul play there. It wasn't an happy marriage, by all sounds.
He sort of shrugs and says, well, it's your investigation. You follow your leads.
You have different ideas then?
I'm but a humble ambassador. What you're doing here is beyond me. I'm just to make myself useful to you however I can.
Right, so what would be useful... Victor, please. What would be useful right now is anything you got on the red sashes.
Yeah, when you say that, you can see that he's got a look on his face of like, okay, now I know what you're talking about, you know, like it's like, because, that lot, they turned up here sometime in the last year, maybe 6 months ago, but longer, and the stated reason was at the employ of the local governor, the local government, the law. The reality, though, is I'm pretty certain that they're more Nissia asserting its domain. They sort of turned up and offered their services, and it was an offer that one couldn't really say no to. And here they are, and they've been here since, acting as the de facto enforcers of law and order around here, and helping with the keeping the law of the land, as it were, and no doubt keeping the local lords reminiscent of their heritage and fealty.
Right. So then, if they're acting on interests in this here, a priest practicing being very successful down here with making everyone a little bit more Solarian, they might have issue with that. And it might be the Princess Anne's being forced on what to do about it.
Well, it's important to remember, I think, that until not that long ago, where we sit right now was Nissia. It had been for some time, and all of the local lords themselves are Nissian. Make no mistake, this land is, for all intents and purposes, named Svalston, but to the ruling classes, it is still Nissia. It's the people who are ethnic to this land, not the lords. And they have done quite well. They have profited, sucking at the teat of the West, and perhaps the East is unhappy with that. So here they are. But at the same time, let's not act as if the lords are completely victims in this game. The Sashes are certainly keeping them in their position of authority, and have done quite brutally and effectively. There are many mercenaries in this land at the moment, as you could imagine. Some Western, most Eastern, but the Sashes are the only ones that report directly to the Lord.
So, in that case, there are two simple alternatives. If the witnesses saw what they saw and reported it correctly, either the red sashes took away the bishop, or someone dressed up as sashes and took away the bishop.
That's a really dangerous game to play.
It is. It would be an excellent game to play if you wish to ramp up tensions between the Grand Prince and the West.
It's a lot. I think there's a little bit of water with your theory there, Victor. If they weren't crossing a bridge that were being checkpointed by red sashes, it's a lot harder to get past people you're pretending to be that are the people you're actually pretending to be. They tend to recognise you.
Yes, I definitely agree.
So the only way for your theory to actually pass scrutiny there is if, when they arrived in the city, they weren't really red sashes to begin with, but other people pretending to be from Nicaea.
See, this is the point. If these are the only two alternatives, now we only have one. If there are no others.
I think we go based upon what is the most likely. No evidence to suggest that they're a false flag.
Yeah.
Could be, but I don't think we got anything to back that up.
I wouldn't presume it is. I only said that those were the two alternatives. And if it is not, we have one. And it's a worrying alternative.
Well, my question is if these are effectively the eyes and ears for Nicaea, and they got a little bit of either full-throated or tacit support from the local leaders. If they decide something's going to be done a certain way, is that what's going to end up happening? Are they going to be able to overrule anything the prince or some of the local lords want?
Politics isn't my game. If the Niceans want to move on this little land, they would be very able to do so.
What I would submit is that work in the area at this point is Artman was a little too successful at starting to nibble away at the edges of, I guess you'd say, cultural support in Svelsing. And so Nicaea got a little bit upset about it and made a calculation that no one's going to lose too much sleep over a priest going missing. Which is quite right. If I was the Kaiser, I can always send another priest.
Just one thing. It's not Hartman, it's Hoffman.
Yes.
It's the one that's gone missing.
Hartman's the
other priest. Yep, just to make it easy.
Hoffman,
They've both got H-man based names.
Yeah.
But,
thank you, Liam.
Yeah. Yeah, you're more than welcome. I didn't think of that when I come up with those names. Yeah, Adolf is, he's listening to all of this. He's like, well, you see, I've had a talk here or there with my counterpart from the east, and we've both been pretty clear on our instructions to respect this powder keg for what it is, and know that we need to sort of play the game fairly. If the Niceans sending the red sashes was out of the blue, we had no expectation of it coming, and frankly the impression I got from my counterparts, neither did they. So if something is happening, if Nicaea is deliberately exerting a lot of influence here, then something must be afoot. But our spies to the east have not reported anything there. There have been troop gatherings near the border now for decades. They're garrisoned there, don't seem to do anything. There's no signs of them mobilising. There's no signs of a forceful takeover. There's no... It's just weird how sudden this is.
Well, maybe they want to create a reason for mobilizing by inciting an incident.
Don't forget there's the official part of government, and then there's the unofficial part of government. And sometimes the unofficial part of government really needs to keep the official part out of the loop so that they can say things to other people and it can pass off as sincere and credible. I mean, you've been in the service long enough to know that's how the game's played sometimes. Ambassadors kept out of the loop.
Yes, but you can see he's thinking. He's like, he just sort of shrugs and he's, I don't know. We need to look into it more. It just feels off. Surely, this land has only worshipped, the church through, 300 years of occupation. Before then, they had some old faith. I don't see how introducing a new faith would really... From my understanding, Hoffman wasn't a nativist. He wasn't encouraging the locals to rise up against their masters or anything like that. He was a firebrand, but he was more focused on converting people to our beliefs, not invigorating us. I don't know.
Well, it would also be that someone somewhere is making a power play and has made a deal with the devil, and the devil's making do.
And if
Nicean politics ain't my specialty, so I don't know what would be the analogue in this world for Byzantine politics.
Nicean politics.
No, make it up. Nicean politics works.
Yeah. all we know is that there's a saying, Nicean politics, for a reason.
Perhaps.
It is. For me, it seems simple. If enough of the population is converted to our faith, Svalsing will be increasingly loyal to us. The Niceans don't want that.
But surely, all the Red Sashes have done, all the violent dousing of fires around this country has done, if anything, has driven more support towards people like Hoffman. It seems strange that you would react in a way that suits the argument of your adversary. But
I see one reason to do so. This is not a very nice one. If you want a war, and if you want a justified one, make a situation where it is justified from nothing and strike hard, because you have already planned a reason. That has never happened before in history, has it? Then he remembers about 16 instances when that has happened.
Now, we could also be getting way ahead of ourselves. It could also be as simple, and Lorenz sort of tips us a little towards Maynard, because I think Maynard made this point a while ago, that the relationship was a bit strained already just because of the nature of things being out here east. Something happened to tip it over the edge. Maybe it was her socialising, hiding it, and then being found out. And she's acted out of desperation, reached out to her contacts, and one of her contacts might be part of the Red Sashes and said, "Hey, I can deal with this problem for you." And it ain't nothing more than an unhappy marriage gone wrong.
Could be. But why would they have been carried away by the Red Sashes in that case?
Like I said, she doesn't know many people. Maybe one of the people she knows is a Red Sash, or connected, got some pull with them.
It's very possible. I have a question for Liam just about history. Victor has been a mercenary for a long time. What is the likelihood that he has fought in a war against the Nisians in his career?
None. So the history of this world is that Nisia is more or less an isolationist sort of empire. They don't really allow external trade in or anything like that. They don't get involved in outside politics for a long time. So they expanded as an empire, then just went full Iron Curtain on it, basically. And then about 50 years ago, their empire receded somewhat, and a whole bunch of states have declared autonomy since then. But a lot of those states obviously have sort of puppet governments serving back towards Nisia, and Svelsing's an example of that. So about 50 odd years ago, Svelsing Svelsing, the reason they stopped where they were is because of the Blutenberg Mountains. So the mountains between your land and Svelsing provided a natural barrier and is particularly hard to get into. But Svelsing, also being a valley, is hard to get into both ways. And your understanding of history, it was a pretty bloody war for them to take this small patch of land to begin with. And they seemingly gave it up 50 years ago and receded, and no one really knows why. No one knows why the empire shrunk the way it did and started focusing on itself and got very seclusionist the way that it did, more so than previously. So they've deliberately done a lot to avoid external conflict. That said, areas such as Svelsing that exist on the borders between the two sort of hemispheres have been powder kegs for a wee while now, and that it's known that there's a lot of people there who claim familial ties back east, especially powerful people have ties back east, and there's been fears that if they were usurped by local populaces, then the east might get involved to sort of maintain control. And Svelsing in particular has a history of being one of these sort of delicate border realms which are sort of teetering in influence either way. But there's been no direct conflict with Nisia. You may have come across Nisian mercenaries, people from Nisia and stuff, but again, they tend to be very sort of keep to themselves, don't trust others, things like that. And a lot of them don't stray too far west. So you've no doubt met Nisians in your time, you've no doubt come across them on the field of battle as mercenaries, but you've never been in a conflict against the kingdom of Nisia. Okay. They very much keep to themselves.
That makes it quite clear, because I was just thinking about like how Victor would how he would think of Nisians as sort of if they are aggressive or not. Because if you have a power that you've fought against before, you're usually like, they're coming again, aren't they? That kind of thing. So yeah. That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
They've been the exact opposite of expansionist for your entire life. As long as everyone has been alive, basically, they've been anything but expansionist.
Right.
They've been aggressively isolationist, if anything. Yeah.
And they haven't recently switched rulers or something like that?
Well, I haven't come up with that bit of lore, so I'm going to say no. No, they would have had, we can say they've got a pretty elder king, or empire, or czar, or whatever they're called. It'll be a czar. It'll be a czar, and he'll be getting towards the probably towards the end of his reign in the next 10 years or so. Which could lend some weight to your theory, or the theory that there may be movement going on behind the throne. You know, people jockeying for position, things
elderly
like that.
Kings usually have councils full of people finding a replacement. So
yeah.
But the fact that he hasn't come up with that as law means it's probably we can just ignore that part.
Yep. I know.
Not necessarily.
GM misdirection. Yeah, I totally haven't come up with that, but never figure it out.
No, but he told us he hasn't come up with the emperor. He didn't say he hasn't come up with the 14 to 15 councillors that are all vying for power and a blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. No, let's not go.
Yeah.
It's all right. Well, and Victor looks at Adolf and he's like, "You seem very skeptical about this religious cult that Freda seems to have been involving herself in. How so? Do you not think it could be a good lead, or do you just think it
could be a good lead for finding Frodo? I mean, why not? It's just, I guess the dots I'm struggling to connect, but again, I'm not the investigator here, is unhappy wife discovers an old religion to keep herself amused, leads to mercenaries abducting priest. That's the jump I'm struggling with. Froda may be off. She could be off at some sweat, some sweat lodge somewhere, and praying to some strange old gods. That's possible. It's certainly something you're going to need to look into to get rid of the leads, to cross that off. But I don't see, unless, and he points to Lorenz, unless there's some truth to this theory that she exerted influence to get rid of her husband. But if she was getting rid of her husband, why would she flee the city?
We need more information.
That's why we got to chase down one more thing in the city proper and see where that goes. But staying here overnight, give you the interim report to get ready to send, just in case something really horrible happens. Always prudent.
Yeah, he appreciates it.
We'll see where we go.
Absolutely. And if there's anything you need, our coffers are open to you, our support is open to you. If you need any advice, history, anything, just ask. Absolutely.
You said the Red Sashes have been here for 6 months.
6 months to a year. Mercenaries were started coming in and out over the last year, and their presence has grown to a very noticeable sort of position.
Do you know where their commanders stay and lodge? Is that a secret?
The commander, his name is Selinsky. Victor Selinsky. Vital, sorry. Russian version of
We don't
Victor.
need another Victor.
Come on.
Already.
Vital Selinsky. Random generators, man. That's like used for all my names.
It's like, no, we've already got one of those. Click again.
It's Vital with a W. Or the Selinsky will do. He is in the. Let me just quickly pull up the Valley of Blood. The city map, so I don't get this wrong, because I know where he is, but I don't want to give you bad advice and then have to retroactively fuck with everything. He is in a military camp near the palace, and is often at the palace. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, he's there.
Right.
The Red Sashes are based at a camp which is very close to the palace in sort of the uptown district. And he is often, as you can imagine, in the palace as he reports directly to the Grand Prince.
I have no direct intention of talking to him at the very moment, but it's good to know where he resides. Petty officers may be more useful if you manage to grab one and get them drunk or something like that. But,
Selinsky's known to hang around with a whole bunch of other advisors and things like that from Nicaea. There's a whole group of them here offering loans, financial aid, advice, support to the Grand Prince.
Right. So, which lead should we follow next, Lorenz? What's the idea?
Well, I think we're going after the servant that was last seen in the residence. I might have an idea more about what the state of the marriage was and if there were any particular recent disagreements, or where Freda might be hanging out, or who she might be having confided in.
Excellent. We're in agreement then. I think finding the servant is the easiest way to strike out some of our theories. Confirm some others. So, if you have no other things to tell us, Ambassador, I'm sure we are free to leave.
One moment, I'm just quickly sending you an image in Discord, which is showing you where the palace is on the map, as well as where the camp is. Hold on. The palace is pretty obvious; it's the biggest building on the fucking map. But the the camp is right next to it. Here you go.
Ah, yes, I see.
The ambassador would point out that if you're looking for, if you are looking for a Strasslander, that you may want to head to the Skin Deal. It's a inn down near the marketplace in town, where a lot of Strasslanders are known to sort of gather and hang out. So if there's anywhere that a local may be known or may sort of, have contacts, that would be the place to go. But beyond that, he doesn't really have any idea where you'd find this Albrecht fella.
Well, I guess we're better get going. There's nothing else.
Right. Thank you, Adolf. Hopefully you got something from us that you can shoot over as well.
Absolutely. He's you get the impression that this guy's been quite concerned about the Red Sashes for a long time, so them being involved is certainly worrying. It's just he doesn't understand the why. But he's certainly quite eager to get a report written about everything that's going on and go from there. But yeah, as you can imagine as well, Maynard is 100% down with looking for Albrecht. He doesn't give a fuck about Red Sashes, doesn't give a fuck about the priest, none of it. He's like, we're looking for the lady. That's his goal.
Cool. Make our escape. Well, not really escape, but
say our excuses and leave.
Take our leave, I think, is probably the better way of phrasing it. We take our leave from the ambassador, who didn't make his bed this morning. Lazy ass. He's got servants for that, probably.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah, where to next? What's the plan?
Should check out that tavern, shouldn't we?
We didn't have anything else.
Oh.
It's been 3 weeks. We didn't have anything else about his location, did we?
They said he had left suddenly.
Right.
They didn't exactly know where.
There's a few things, right? So one thing that would occur to you all is that there is only 3 ways that you know of, anyway, that someone could realistically leave this city, right? Especially the old parts of the city. So you've got one gate in the eastern wall that comes and goes. That's it. There's one gate in and out, and it is on the. There is obviously the docks, which is, because you are on a river. So there is the docks either, or that's leaving via river full stop. So it could be a small boat, could be via the docks, whatever. Or there is crossing the bridge and going over to the western bank where the slums are and leaving that way. So if he had left town, there's 3 avenues that he would do it that you know of, unless there is some sort of secret exit or anything like that. But there's 3
and
obvious.
A boat's expensive.
Boats are expensive. That said, it's if you're wanting to get back to Strassland, you've got 2 options. One, you go west and cross the mountains, which is not the easiest thing to do. Or 2, the quickest and safest way is certainly to sail via boat, but it's also the most obvious way. So if someone was trying to get out of town and get back home without being found, both of those things would be obvious and dangerous. Going east, unless your intention was to leave town via the east and go south and then catch a boat further downriver, doesn't really make sense. So, but Yeah, those are the options. And also, those are also the same options that exist for Freda as well. So if you're wanting to go and try and figure out how she had left the city, then that's the way. Now, obviously, this is all assuming that either of them have actually left the city. They could still be in the city somewhere.
Well, should we check out the tavern or should we spelunk around the gates?
Oh, I think we check around the tavern. Someone might even know of him. Might be able to say, oh yeah, he was expressing wishing to leave town. If it's a Strasslander water and all, someone in there will help us out.
Oh,
if
yes.
they know anything.
Well, it's settled then.
And it's about lunchtime now already. Bloody had to wait for forever to get to see the ambassador.
Maybe they have some proper drink there as well.
I just don't want any more rye bread.
What the hell, man? It's my culture.
It's my culture.
I like rye bread. What's wrong with rye bread?
I know, rye bread's... I love rye bread, but...
Lorenz doesn't. You know, if that's fantasy Germany, they probably eat a lot of rye bread too, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. It's one of the things where Lorenz is probably like loves bread because he didn't get a lot of it as when he was growing up. But now it's sort of like a sign that he can get decent bread, so he doesn't eat the stuff that reminds him of being like on the streets.
Yep.
That's probably what it is.
So, tavern then.
Also, actually, I just remembered another thing as well, is if he had left town via the bridge, then he'd have had to have gone through the same checkpoint as you, and they'd have recorded his details or a name. Now, doesn't necessarily mean he gave the right name, but you have no doubt that they'd note people who weren't local coming and going. So if you wanted to, if you got onto that bridge and got those records, you could potentially see if he left that way.
Yeah.
You haven't been to the gate, but considering that they're checking who's coming in and out of the city from the west, there's possibility they have a similar system to the east as well.
Only we had someone sneaky that could sneak into places.
Would we know, speaking of nothing, if they record age and appearance, or if it's just names and titles, stuff like that?
At the bridge?
At the bridges and the ships.
Lorenz got thoroughly manhandled at the bridge, so he'd remember everything that they were doing.
Yeah.
Because they asked his name and where he worked. And they wrote a whole bunch of stuff down.
You would know that it looked like it was mostly names and very basic descriptions. But there was the commander
on the bridge that was more like, my job is to recognize faces.
Yeah. There was certainly, like when they took all of your information, for example, you saw it getting recorded. So people who stood out are certainly being noted in a way that others aren't. So
one thing that our old man Victor is pretty good at is knowing logistics, because he works as a mercenary. So what is his guess of how reasonable it would be to go through everyone who has left the city, like the last 3 weeks, and actually check them, if there are such?
I think the question is, how the hell do you get those records?
Yeah, but like if there's like
there's no way for us to easily access those records short of doing some bullshit.
But it also has to be worthwhile to do it. If there's like 25,000 names, it's not worthwhile. So
the amount of for that, you don't know about the gate. You haven't seen the gate. You don't know how much traffic comes via the gate. For the bridge, there's a lot more people trying to get into the city than out of it. Although there would be, you'd assume, people, especially at the end of the day, people who work in the city but live out of the city, there'd be more of them. It would be a lot of names, considering that this guy's been missing for several weeks at this point, potentially, at least 2 weeks that you know of. Then you'd have, that would be hundreds of names. you'd imagine.
We also got I got a little bit of a plan. If he's got friends and he's still in the city and he wants to get out, we can make that happen.
Yes. For a favour for some information. I quite like it.
So if he doesn't want to come out of his IEO, but somebody knows, we can just put it out. We want to talk. And if he wants to get out of the city, we can make that happen. If he wants to head home. We hear he's a bit homesick. He wants to go home.
If he's still here, that's a very reasonable plan. And I think finding...
Problem is, it doesn't get us answers immediately. It's something that will take a little while, at least a day to percolate.
Yeah. It's worthwhile trying, I'd say.
It's the softly approach. Ain't going in there smashing tables.
I was not planning on smashing tables.
I've seen
Judge.
how much you drink.
Now. That's a different matter entirely. Victor looks slightly miffed that you would say that he can't control himself when drunk. So...
There is a very slight smile on Lorenzo's face. Barest slither of a smile.
So, I'm going to push you for a plan.
Yeah, we go to the tavern.
You're welcome to ignore me and keep talking in character. That's fine. I don't mind. But
yeah,
I'm going to push you
we're
for
just
an idea.
chewing the scenery.
Let's go to the tavern and see what happens. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
And we can sort of see if there's anyone who knows this character there. So we might be able to plant that little offer as well.
If it's not easy, if he's well hidden and we can't tease anything out, we can leave that offer. I would also just, on the last little note, seeing you mention logistics, would be there's probably more records easier to go through for boats coming and going. Probably harder to access the records for the people going across the bridge, and there's probably a heck of a lot of people coming in through the Eastern Gate based upon the fact that there's a whole bunch of war that has displaced people in the local countryside. So
that said,
it's probably impossible to get too much other than that Strasslander left through the East Gate. That would be the sticking point. Someone leaving out the East Gate being a Strasslander would be really obvious.
What I'll say is you have seen next to no refugees within the old city, within the walled city. None. So if there are refugees, they're all outside of the city. You've definitely seen them across the river at the slums. You saw a lot of them there. You've seen next to none within the walled city.
Okay, so then I rephrase my ordering that it's probably the docks and the East Gate are probably easiest to figure if anybody that's Strasslander is left. And the West Bridge is hard because it's a checkpoint that's run by the Red Sashes, and it's going to be difficult information to get.
You definitely saw Red Sashes at the docks, if you remember, as well as other mercenaries. But obviously, naturally, the docks being as chaotic as they are and as big a place as they are, so it'd be a lot easier to slip in and out that way than
considering how much trade comes from Strassland, it's probably a lot easier to get records for Strassland-bound things there than a bridge.
Yeah. There might even be a Strasslander harbour master.
Exactly. Or pilots.
Yes, of course, or captains. Lots of people to talk to.
Yeah, but anyway,
tavern
I just wanted
first.
to put a pin on that.
Yep. I'm just gonna write here harbour.
This is why talking's great.
I like that you do it in character too. I like that you do this
as much as possible.
You do your plot summaries in character. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying an approach where I talk as little as possible in out of character when I'm role playing recently, and it's quite fun. But it wastes a lot of time too.
Gets tired. It does, because you just want to keep going, but then your voice gets tired. So I switched out of character so I can quickly make a point and move on. Like, this is the point I'm trying to make. Here we go. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. To the tavern. As we leave, Lorenz would be doing his usual counterintelligence, trying to make sure he's not being followed by anyone. And now he knows anyone that looks rather mercenary and red sashes, he's going to be like, oh, fuck that guy.
So what Erkenkrantz is doing is, of course, the exact opposite. If someone wants to follow him, he will make it very clear that he knows. And he's also, he's going to dress in his usual swaggery Landsknecht attire. He's not going to try to do anything like that. So basically, if you stay away from him a little bit, you might even notice people that are following him.
You're the bait, you're the big shiny object while I'm dressed like a local just walking around.
I was actually even thinking about grabbing the Zweihander now just to making me even more obvious if someone is following. But yeah, we'll see about that. I'm going to a tavern, not a brawl.
Especially after Lorenz's comment about smashing tables.
Well, in any case, so I think Erkenkrantz will just leave carrying his usual attire, making no show of being subtle.
Okay.
He's bad at it.
Right, so sure thing. So you're walking with Erkenkrantz walking quite directly towards the tavern, with Lorenz lingering behind and trying to spot tails and things like that. Correct? Marvelous. Okay. So the skin deal where you're directed towards, obviously it has a name in a local dialect, but it's known as the skin deal. It's a Strasslandian styled supposedly run by Strasslandia. Or Strasslandian.
Strasslandian, surely, right?
Yeah, you're directed in that direction, and it's near the market square, like right near where the bridge actually crosses the river. And you have to make your way through Old Town to get there. So, again, looking at the city map, for those of you listening, I'll get Matt to include the city map in notes, in the show notes. You can see how there's like a group of bigger, more spaced out buildings near the western gate. That's where the embassy is, in there, in the sort of more bourgeoisie district, right? And you've made your way down towards it's not really a square, but it's called a square, where the plinth is near the river. That's sort of where you're making your way down through like a warren of old buildings. And these are properly old buildings too, like Old Town. They mean it. Compared to like when you're close to the docks, there's row houses. Like the Nissians are known for building very functionally, whereas Old Town is not necessarily function over form the way the Nissian architecture is. And you can tell you're walking through proper old warrens of town with some larger sort of thoroughfares that you make your way towards the river down. And you're going down here, and you've got the sound of the city around you. The city is alive, considering the countryside is racked with uprisings and conflict right now. The city is remarkably peaceful, if having a touch of wartime footing to it. There are mercenaries patrolling the streets, just casually sauntering around, just reminding people that, hey, you're safe, but also behave. And some of these mercenaries are red sashes. What I will do is I will have a spot roll from Lorenz. This may or may not be opposed. Yeah. Just tell me what you rolled.
Gosh, now I'm remembering the rule. It's plus your modifier.
Yep.
Over 20.
Over 20. Well, over what the other person rolled, if it's opposed.
Yep. So I rolled 11 plus 12, so 23. 23?
You are confident you're not being followed. You are positively confident. You're pretty sure that there's a few places where you sort of go through areas where if someone was following you, they'd have to cross an opening or whatever, and they haven't. You're confident that Erkenkrantz is not being followed, but not only is Erkenkrantz not being followed, you're pretty sure you're not being followed either. So overall, you get to where you're going, and you're quite happy with it. When you arrived at
Skin, they rolled 24, huh?
Eh?
So they rolled 24.
Quite possibly. So you arrive at the Skinned Eel. It's exactly where you were told it would be. It's a building, of course. Why wouldn't it be? And you get there, and it's midday. It's lunch service, right? There's not really any music or anything going on. There's not a hell of a lot of revelry, but it is busy. It is very busy, as a matter of fact, and it is full of people, a mixture of dialects and accents from all throughout the West, but largely from your home country, Strussland. As you walk in, you see shields, wooden cutouts to look like shields, nailed to the wall with like paintings of different coats of arms of big houses back in the West, and things like including some that you've fought for, including the Archduke and things like that. They're all the Kaiser, his coat of arms is up on the wall somewhere. There is a banner of Strussland hanging over the bar, but there's also some from the other countries out west as well. And it is generally, if you've ever been into a tacky as fuck Irish or London pub anywhere in the Commonwealth,
it's exactly what I thought it was.
This is what you're walking into. It is a themed pub. It doesn't feel like a pub back home, but the people there are making the most of it. And they are.
You're walking into what would it be here? It would be like I think it's a franchise, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. There's a whole bunch of pubs around Auckland that are like that.
Yeah, like any pub, if you're in the Commonwealth, any pub of like called the Crown and Badger or something like that.
The Queen's Arms.
We have one called the Bishop's Arms, and it's
so it's that sort of a thing, but it's themed for your country, but generically as like a welcoming place for travellers anywhere from the West, and it is full of those sorts of people, and obviously some locals as well. But there's a lot of people in here that you get the impression of, travellers. We're talking merchants, we're talking sailors, we're talking people who have no doubt come from the docks and stuff like that. And it is largely, they're here, they're eating, they're socialising, there's a bit of day drinking going on because people have probably got a day or two to kill in town, and this is where they come. And it's one of those places where you can tell the people who live here, this is their local, and there are tables made up of clearly people who are part of the scenery here. You can smell food cooking. It's got the smell of roasting meat somewhere out back is sort of wafting through, but also there's that smell of sticky floors soaked with spilled ale and stuff like that. It's got that stale,
everything's got a layer
smell
of fat to it. Just the cooking from the kitchen, there's just a layer of grease on every surface. Yes, and it's by no means a grotty, filthy place, but it's by no means a super maintained upper class place either. And it's incredibly welcoming. You walk in and you get noticed by some of the locals as you come in, but everyone sort of goes back to their drink because it's full of travellers and strangers every day. And food is being served and all sorts. It's quite relatively lively. You get the impression that at night times, though, that's when the musicians will come and the place will open up even more and be more raucous. But right now, lunch service is in full swing. Absolutely. So Lorenz is going to find a table that has a good view of everything, and he just wants to survey. You've mentioned different groups of people. So he's wanting to focus mainly on local groups and people that look like they might be servants that work in housing or for officials in government, like sort of servants' tables.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So you've got a really high streetwise, so I won't get you the wrong. So you sort of sit here for a while. I'm assuming you find a pew somewhere and you sit up and you sort of having a beer maybe and looking around the crowd. There's a haze in here. Obviously, this is pre-modern world, no smoking indoors. So there is a haze inside as we've already established that people smoke in the setting because Victor has a pipe, so other people in here are smoking as well. It's you start looking around. For the most part, the vast majority of people in here appear to be travelers, sailors, mostly sailors, people that you get the impression to come up on boats and sell and offload goods, merchants, things like that. They've all got that distinctly itinerant look about them, like they're keeping an eye on their money and stuff like that. They're definitely set up with that. Yeah, you can just tell when someone's not from town, right? Like, we've all been in pubs, and you can sort of tell when someone's not 100% comfortable where they are. And it's got that vibe. So, it's like that. There is some locals sort of leaning up on the bar talking to the bar staff. You can tell they're locals just because of how familiar they are. They sort of come up, they're not paying money, there's clearly a bar tab. They just get their drinks handed to them and they go back to a table and they're all around leaning. But most of them look to be older, like sort of at that age where they've probably retired. They probably live here. There is not a hell of a lot of people who look like they work here, probably because it's the middle of the workday. So there is that. There is one or two people who could be, though. And saying that, the locals here, it's a fairly big sort of group. You know, there's a group of them, sort of, some of them are leaning on the bar. They're at different tables, but they sort of interact between tables in a way that gives you the impression that the people here are familiar with everybody. You'd imagine if someone was a regular here, a lot of people would probably have a rough idea of who they were. We're talking of a bar that's maybe got about 3 dozen people in it at the moment, so it's fairly lively.
I'm going to sort of lean over to Victor and point, well, discreetly just nod to the groups. Like, could be there, could be there, could be at the bar. Points to run down, see who knows what. Which one do you want to take?
I can talk to the old veteran servants. The people at the bar.
Oh, yeah, that's all good.
If you didn't want to talk to them specifically. This is your work, not mine.
Well, I think it's best you develop a taste.
Oh, sure. I can try. And
What's
you notice
the,
that he has said that he wants to talk to the older guys because they're his age. Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's Lorenz going to do?
He's going to try and get himself in at one of the tables that are... he's going to carry a whole bunch of beer. That's what he's going to do. And he's just going to pretty much get beer for a table and invite himself in by lubricating the conversation with alcohol.
Okay. Now, if I remember rightly, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Lorenz deliberately trying to not look like a Strasslander previously? Is that still the case? Or what do you...
It was more that he was wearing... He was wearing clothes that were too good to be local, but were fashionably local. Because it's stuff that he's brought from home, right? Like he was going here and he's like, oh, they don't dress like us. Here's a rough idea of what sort of clothes they wear, but it's not tailored locally. Like it's too.
Okay.
But I don't know how noticeable that is. I just.
Okay.
That's the flavor of it, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like if you know what you're looking for, you go, that's not how we dress. Yeah. He's trying to look like that's how we dress.
Yeah.
Like he's looked at it in a book, but has never been there.
Yeah.
Speaking of, is Maynard with us or not?
Yes, he would be. I'd forgotten. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, he would be.
Yeah.
He is with you. He's just sort of at the bar, drinking, looking around, looking slightly impatient as well. You feel like
he always looks impatient.
He's waiting for you guys to do the nice way of asking before he just starts going around and harassing people to tell him where this person is. But he's bought into your strategy for now, given it bears fruit. So we'll start with Victor. Victor makes his way up to the bar behind. I don't, you know, that traditional Bavarian maid's outfit that we use people to wear around Oktoberfest. That's what the staff here are wearing, because of course they are. They're from Strassland. So they're dressed in a way that seems comically, almost comically homespun to you. And they serve you as you arrive at the bar, and the locals are sort of sitting there. There's about 3 of them, and like these are the guys that look like they're a part of the scenery. They're here all the time. They sort of keep to themselves, sort of thing, and they seem to be playing a game of dice amongst themselves on the bar, and sort of mumbling to themselves. They don't seem particularly open to strangers as you come up, but you can sort of take a pew up next to them or lean against the bar near them, and they seem to be sort of quietly. They're at that point of long-term acquaintance. I say acquaintance because regulars at bars, in my opinion, are never truly friends. They only know each other in the one environment, but they know each other very well in that environment. And they're at that point of a relationship where they barely communicate, right? Like it is drinks, it is laughs, smirks, grunts. They roll the dice. There might be one line here like, "Oh, you fucker," if someone rolls a good dice thing. And for the most part, they seem to be subsiding in complete
Barasan.
They're just happy amongst themselves with absolute minimal conversation, but they don't look happy. But you know that this level of gruffness is their baseline happiness.
I think Victor recognizes this, having been a mercenary for a long time among his own men as well. I would assume. But what I was gonna say was, Victor comes up to this bar and he lights his pipe and he looks around these people sitting around playing, and he sort of looks at one of them and it's like, "So, if I want to order something in this ridiculous place that actually tastes like Streislander food, what would it be?"
Okay, I'm trying to think.
So he's inviting conversation by saying like, "Yeah, if I want something that isn't tacky."
Yeah. They would sort of surprised at your interjection, right? Because they're not presenting themselves as...
You interrupted their conversation, you asshole.
He sort of shrugs and... I don't know. Meat's good.
Right. Alright, I'll have meat then.
Yeah, it's like, he sort of... He whistles, right, and calls over one of the barmaids. And this occurred to me, I don't know very many German female names. They're all, like, I guess most of them are the same as what we use in the West. So we'll say this woman's called Maria. And he says, "Maria, this fella here wants the meat." That's all he says. It's not much of a menu. He just says the meat. And she sort of understands what that means and goes away and comes back with the impression is you've got they clearly have just meat roasting almost continuously here. And the meat you bought, you have no idea how long it's been roasting. It's got that combination. If you've ever been to like, I don't know if these are a thing overseas, but here we have like working men's clubs, right? Where it's just a bar where men go to at the end of the day, and it's like they're all locals. They all subscribe for cheaper piss. You have like a membership to be a member of the working men's club, and they manage to have like the most generic base level carvery where the vegetables are either too soggy or too hard. They're never right. And the meat is crispy and dry on the outside whilst being slightly undercooked on the inside, and that is what you get.
You just got to hope that there's a whole bunch of gravy to put on the vegetables.
Lots of gravy and lots of pepper.
Hope that the gravy's good, because if the gravy's good, it all works.
These places definitely exist over here in Finland as well.
There's probably some peas that you mix in with the gravy.
I'm thinking of a very specific one here in Åland. Yes.
So
I like how this episode's just food. It's just all food.
And the food that you've been bought is good and hearty. It has a smell of grease and pepper and meat, right? And it's the sort of thing that you look at it and you know it's not flesh. You know if you're cooking at home or if you're going to a nice restaurant, you'd get better food. But as soon as you see it, you're like, I want that in me. There's something about it. It's comfort food, right? Like it is bare minimum cooked in a pub, but comfort food. And it works, and it comes over, and the gravy is just, it's one of those gravies where it's got grease floating on it. You know, it's like the whole thing is just it's looking pretty good. It's quite cheap too. She doesn't charge you much. She asks if there's any news from the old country, but she asks it with a sort of conviction that you can tell this is what they ask everyone that comes through that they think is a traveller. So what's the news from the old country? In the same way that she's asked 20 other people today.
It's the old piss. It says. Because he knows it's not going to be it isn't a genuine question. He sort of shuts that off, and he tastes the food, and as he's eating he's reminded of, because I imagine that Victor has spent quite a lot of time in foreign countries eating foreign food for foreign things, being a mercenary, so this kind of food always reminds him of home, so he actually really savors this food. And he eats it, and he looks it up. He's like, good recommendation. But what about the beer? Some this and this. And he makes that kind of conversation for a while. But what he would do then is that he tries to he tries to get these people talking to him slightly more by asking questions about, the local town and blah blah blah, those kinds of things. Complaining about the food, complaining about being here, seeing what their attitudes are like, that kind of thing. Okay. I don't know what that skill would actually be, getting them talking, basically. Because they were very unfriendly to him at first, but if you show that you're also one of their sort, maybe they...
Look, what we're going to actually do here is we're going to use a career skill. You have a career skill that is mercenary. Now, mercenary, let's be loose about this interpretation here, involves travelling around and making friends quickly. So because there isn't a more obvious skill apart from maybe persuasion on the skill list, let's test the system, shall we say. And let's use mercenary. It's not opposed. It's just a roll to see how well you do. Obviously, unless you get a 1, they're not going to tell you to piss off. But I want to see how warm they get to you.
Yeah, this is sort of what I was digging for. Victor knows how to do this kind of thing by this point.
Yeah.
In his life. Let's see. Okay, so that's it's 25. That's really 25. Good.
That's quite good.
No, 24, sorry.
24.
It's not 11. I was looking at Mercenary Captain. It's 10. So, okay. It's 24.
That's still quite good. That's good. So, they warm to you. Over time, it takes you a while. They sort of... initially it's just being respectful back. And then over time, as you continue the conversation, you eat the food, and maybe you shout them around of beers. You notice that the beer that they were drinking is a different colour than the beer they ordered when you were paying for it. It's not quite as dark, as thick, but it's they definitely stepped up a tier when you were paying. But eventually they think, you know what, this bloke's all right. And before you know it, you're sort of sitting there. They don't really talk too much, but these are all guys who have been here in Svelsing for years at this point. They work here. And they're sort of part of the scenery. These are guys who they get a discount here because at the end of the night they help clean the place up. You notice that when they go to the bathroom, they bring back empty glasses with them to the bar. Right, they're those sorts of people. They're helping out around the place, and they're helping prop this place up because it is their home from home. And a couple of them even live here. They actually sleep in the rooms upstairs, which they get discounted for helping around the place. But these are guys who have worked in the docks and doing odd jobs around the place. You get the impression that they sort of moved here, in one case, over 20, 30 years ago. And they've just sort of been working, living here. Maybe they came here. In one case, one of them said he came here looking for a wife and unfortunately he found one. You know, that sort of a thing. Like there's that sort of that sort of conversation going on. These are your sort of as I'm sure we see throughout the world, at least the Western world, you know, those sort of old guys who don't really have much in touch with their family or anything, and they're sort of just existing somewhere that's not really home. And the local pub has become their community, as it were. So it is a bunch of guys like that. And they talk about when the place had the old owners and how it was better then and all this sort of thing. They know this place quite well. They probably have an extremely detailed and intimate history of this one building and everything within 50 meters of it.
So, after making conversation for a while, I'm trying to figure out how Victor would phrase this, because it's either a lie or a request, and it's considerably better at one of them. He would sort of imply that he's looking for an old friend called Albrecht. Used to work as a servant. Seems to have gone wrong. Like he's a little bit older. He used to serve as a valet back when I was younger. I was the start of my career. Have you ever heard of one like that? They seem to be regulars, and he was also a Strasslander. He should have been here a couple of times. You must have seen him. Talked to him quite a couple of times. Huh?
Okay, are you angling to try and use diplomacy? Is that your plan here?
No, I mean, not really. Like, it's really a lie. That's the problem. He's saying that yeah. I'm open to rolling lie. Yeah. I'm perfectly open to rolling lie. It's just that I'm bad at it.
There's an element of truth to it, though, I think. So, and you've got a history of being...
Could be persuasion.
Yeah, history of being... Yeah. Look, what we're going to do is we're actually going to split the difference, because you'd be throwing some of your servant knowledge in there, you know, talking about the guy being a valet, but it is still a lie. So we'll split the difference between the two. So this is not part of the rules for those listening. Well, I think it should be. I do it in Warhammer as well. So you've got a servant of 9 and a lie of 5, and we'll say the difference between them puts you at 7. How about that? So,
all right. Let's see how it goes. Nope. That's a 15.
15? Okay, that's actually quite telling, though, because you say this stuff and you notice they've gone from very warm to you to going very quiet, to the point that these are guys which aren't skilled at lying, much like yourself. So instead of lying or saying, "Nah, we don't know," they just don't say anything. They just go quiet while you're talking, and they sort of look amongst themselves like, no, don't know who you're talking about, and they drink. Like they just drink. Like, yeah, no. Sounds like a toff. Sounds like he works with the toffs. We're working men down here, mate. I don't know who you're talking about.
And I used to know him. It's not so much of a toff, but it is what it is. Maybe I can find him at some other pub. It was nice talking to you all.
Yeah,
he starts to sort of get the conversation going again, but he knows he's lost them. He knows they sort of distanced themselves from him now that he's shown he has other purposes than just being nice.
They've gone quiet, right? They've gone like, you know, poker faced, as best as they can be poker faced, which is not very well. So they, you know, that they're not telling you something.
So there's two things he could do. Victor could either accept that, or he could realize that they're not saying they're not telling him something, and get more terse. That is, command them to say what supposed to be saying.
Or you could try and bribe them. You could try and appeal to them. You've got a whole range of social actions.
That's what I mean. I'm trying to figure out what he would do. So he looks at them and he's like,
just punch them in the face, start a brawl?
No. Actually, now that you mention
it,
I actually
D&D
like
parties do, right?
I just got an idea. So he's like, all right, if it's gonna be like that, And he says, "Okay, I know you drifters." Says with a little bit of disdain to himself again. And he says, "Okay, you see this darker beer that you've been drinking? What about you drink it for the rest of the month?
Okay.
Tell me what you know. Huh? It'll be a vast improvement to your lives. Just open those lips a little."
Okay, roll bargain.
Yeah.
Let's leave this a chance. I don't know how I want this to go. Either way is amusing, so let's just roll a dice. Fuck it. Roll bargain.
Oh no! That's a 1.
You got luck points, mate.
Yeah, I can do a bit of luck. How does that work again?
Don't ask me that. Hold on, I'll pull up the card.
I mean, I know.
3 weeks for those listening at home. And we play a lot of games, so it's
Yeah.
rule sets are a little.
Currently,
hard to follow sometimes.
I'm Simbaroom and the Expanse RPG, which are not the same. Pretty much the opposite. In Simbaroom, this would have been very good.
Luck. It's just a thing that you roll against your luck, but you can also spend it. Hold on, I have to find the page that is on.
Yeah. I published material for this game.
You're the guy.
Okay, cut that out in post.
Yeah.
Cut that out in post.
You're supposed you're supposed
This
to
whole
be the
bit's getting
guy
cut in
leading to
post,
it.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting cut in post. Yeah,
Meanwhile,
I've
Liam's like, no, this is the shit I put in.
Absolutely.
shame me mercilessly.
Yeah. Published material for
no.
the game. You don't know how the basic mechanics
because-
works.
No, I know you can roll against it, but I had forgotten how the spends work.
Okay, no, it's so you can roll against it, or you can also spend luck to break a draw. I see that. I don't know if there's any other way to spend it. Like, that seems to be what I'm seeing in the book.
Well, in that case, I can accept the 1. That just backfires enormously.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does.
Fine.
It does. And
Great,
we're
thanks,
gonna cut
mate.
to that. We're gonna cut to
Thanks,
that once we've dealt with like. So, well, that's going on. That's taken a while. That's taken a wee while. So, what's Lorenz been doing? You explained him going away and buying some beers, and he's come back with a handful of beers.
He's walking past the table and he goes, "Oh." Believe it or not, I've had a while to think about this, and this is the best I could come up with. So feel free to laugh.
Okay.
Feel free to laugh. You can tell I don't do this often, really. He goes, "I think I got a little bit too much. I need to take a load off." As he's going past this one of the tables, he's saying it very loud. It's like, and he just starts putting beers down on the table and just invites himself in. He's like, people will just take the alcohol. They'll understand what this is.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Because it's a lot of booze, and no one's going to say no to free booze. They look at you strangely, but they're like, "Sure, yeah, please take a seat."
Gift horse, don't look at gift horse.
I'll take that, thanks. And they start liberating your pints. And they're like, this is a group of, say, younger people. Are they locals? What sort of group are you aiming for?
People that look like they'd be servants.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, you.
So they could be a mix of locals and out-of-towners.
Yeah, it
Like-
looks. This
like
is more of a
group of
generalized
friends,
sort of
whatever.
table, right? This is like a long sort of bench seat that they're on. And there's a mixture here of people who are clearly sailors, but you get the impression that these are sailors who spend a lot of time in town, right? They come and go here, so they're second home. And there's some other people amongst them that sort of had a look about them that you get the impression they work in the city somewhere. They don't have that hard, rough look about them. Yeah. You're there and you get amongst them and they start taking drinks off you, just like, sweet, thanks, yep, we'll take that. Good
Yeah.
on you. You're all right.
I just pretty much just go, I've found when I've been moving from city to city, one of the easiest ways to get a couple of connections and see what's what around the place. People are pretty friendly in pubs. And he sort of just slaps the table and chuckles.
You're all like, Yeah. As they're drinking. Like, acknowledging you enough that they don't seem rude for taking your booze. Yeah. But, yeah.
And he's going to be like, so what's good on the menu here, food-wise?
Okay, we're doing this thing again.
It's what you like. It is actually really good small talk.
Yeah, they recommend the fish.
I sort of just like signal over to one of the waitresses and place an order of fish and just point to the people around me in the table and be like, and keep them coming with the beer. So it's pretty clear that if they, keep playing ball, they're going to keep getting alcohol.
Okay.
And he's going to be like, so what's it like working in the far reaches of what we consider Strassland?
So is your plan here, just to sort of abstract it a bit and speed it up, is your plan here to sort of small talk your way into the group?
Small talk my way into it, going past being the awkward thing, and we're just having conversation.
Okay.
Like that awkward bit where everyone's not sure if they can keep going with what their regular conversation is, and then it becomes maybe 10 minutes past where it's clear that, it's not that initial super awkward part is gone. And they're sort of opening up. Maybe they've finished drinking one round of beer, so they're a little happier with the bargain.
Are you relying on any sort of graft and bullshitting to do this, or is it all just straight up talking to them, or what's your game? What's your angle, I guess?
Angle's trying to find the people that are the most welcoming to me, so that I can find. I guess it might be a praise as to who's being the most open and forthright.
Okay.
If we go angling for a skill.
Yeah, no, I was
finding the targets to talk to of interest.
Let's do that then. Let's do a praise. You're trying to figure out the group and figure out who's the person to talk to. That makes sense.
Exactly. 26. I got a 14 plus 12.
There you go.
26.
So yeah, you quickly figure out the more talkative people, the people who are sort of, and you managed to sort out the wheat, the wheat from the chaff too. You quickly identify the people who are in town because they're trading, people who are in town because they're sailors, that sort of a thing, and you figure out the ones which are actually local through the course of your conversation. You're much more this sort of talking and dealing with groups of people is more your thing versus Victor, which sort of has to be a bit more direct about it. So you managed to sort of weasel your way through until you've figured out.
There'd also be questions, just general questions like, oh, so what you do here, who you work for, what you do. Oh, interesting. And that sort of narrows down, like, they're going to have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
They work in the docks. Maybe later, maybe that might be useful information. But right now, I'm trying to find Albert. So you find a small group of people. They work the night shift down at the warehouses on the docks, and they are local. And it's a warehousing place for a Strasslandian merchant, and he sort of tries to hire people he knows. He can trust them more, that sort of thing. So he keeps it to people from back home. These people, you get the impression have been here for a couple of years. They're younger than the sort of people Victor was talking to, and they're all night shifters. So they're here having sort of gotten up and they've come here for their breakfast. They're sort of working the great. They're used to working different hours than everyone else. So just killing time, waiting for their sort of their afternoon shift, night shift sort of to start. And you sort of get in amongst them and start talking with them and stuff like that, and to the point where small talk is flowing. And then just at a point in conversation, I'll just be like, I haven't been out this way before, but I got an old, not strictly an old acquaintance, but probably the only person I really know that lives out here. Name of Albert. He's a friend of the family from back home, and I was asked by his family to check in on him. I thought maybe he'd be stomping around, but he doesn't seem to be here at the moment.
Make a charlatan roll.
Would this be charlatan or a lie?
lie fits. I guess I can make a lie roll.
Lie is my best skill as well.
It's opposed.
We're both doing the same shit.
Oof. And this is the big one, and this is the one that I got my second worst possible. I rolled 2 plus 14, so it's 16, but it was opposed, so there's always a chance.
No, they rolled quite well. So they, again, very similar to the other table. The conversation goes quiet. It goes very quiet. There's, and the people here sort of, they're a bit more socially gifted than the others. So they go, you see looks amongst themselves. They're sort of looking around and no. Never met no Albrecht. Big town, there's lots of people.
Well, that's a real shame, because I haven't said where I happen to work yet, have I? Noticing that the conversation sort of... So there's a little bit of an edge to what Lorenz is saying.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, see, I happen to work up at the embassy, see. So I heard little things about him might not wanting to be here anymore, and his family might want to see him back at home.
Okay.
I was wanting to see if there was any truth to that, and if he wants to head back home, I know a ship that will take him.
What role would this be? What are you angling for? What are you trying to do, Sean? Well, not necessarily a role.
Seeing
what
as
skill
they're
are you
all-
wanting to use?
This is sort of like playing a poker table, where I'm putting a bet on the table, and I might be appraised again. Actually, he's trying to read the room to see if there are any reactions.
Okay.
Because everybody's gone, yeah, no, don't know anything. Whereas this is like the sort of thing where someone might go, look at somebody else and go, you know, there might be some non-verbal cues that pop up.
Look, you've got very high
Something like
appraise,
that.
so won't worry about rolling that. There's definitely like a nervous pause. The people are trying to not talk about Albrecht, but you do get the impression that one or two of them sort of wonder amongst themselves. You know, like you can see them thinking like, yeah, there's doubt around their reactions. They're supposed to be not reacting, but some of them are doubting whether or not they're supposed to be not reacting, and you get that vibe from them.
And then he's put that down, and then at this point he's going to say, he's starting to turn the dial up. He's slowly turning it up. So he started with, can I get this just voluntarily? No. Look, I want to help. Look, this is what I can do. This is where I work. And then he's going to turn it a little bit more and say, look, this is the approach that's best for everyone. Want to see Albrecht safe, but I do want to see him.
Roll a persuasion roll.
27. 15 plus.
Wow. Okay. They Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So some of them sort of finish their drinks and they sort of. You see one of them. He sort of seems to be the group's sort of natural leader. He's the sort of the more confident of the group. He sort of downs his drink and sort of sits upright and sort of looks around the room. And it's like, well, I need to take a piss. You still you know where the bathroom is, right? To you.
Finally, I think I've had a lot to drink as well. Full bladders.
So he heads towards the door out to the side of the bar and makes his way through it. Do you follow him?
Yeah, but I make eye contact with Maynard.
With Maynard?
Or Victor,
Okay.
So to be like, To be like, so he sees that I'm where I'm going and what I'm doing, just in case, you know.
Yeah. So the door he leads you to is not the toilet. It is a door out to a back alley, although the smell of this place makes you feel like it is used regularly as a toilet. And he sort of goes over to a wall and relieves himself. And he sort of finishes what he's doing, shakes up, and he sort of turns around, so wiping his hand on his trousers, and he's like, "How do I know you're not a fucking spy?"
The real question you want to ask is, if I am, is it Alpin Albrecht or not?
Oh yeah, that is what I'm fucking asking. So, tell me.
What I said is the truth. If he wants out of the city, I can get him out of the city. If he wants protection, I can get him protection. I can hold him up in the embassy and no one's going to touch him there. Then we can put him on a ship and get him out of here.
He sort of he stares at you, and it's like that uncomfortable length pause where you start feeling like you need to fill space. Do you say anything?
No, I let it hang.
He sort of looks at you, and he's squinting as he's looking at you. He's trying to make you, right? And he sort of looks around, and he's like, "All right, what do you want me to tell him?"
I want you to say that if he wants out, he's going to have to talk to me, Lorenz. Give him a phrase so I know it's him. I'm trying to think of a good phrase. This is like the past phrase. Like, I'll be waiting here at the tavern. You can... Well, here's the thing. I don't want to... If he's feeling unsafe, I don't want him to be in a position where he ain't safe. I can either go to him or he can come to me. You can arrange it or not. I'd prefer it to be a little bit public for obvious reasons. This is a trust building exercise, see?
Yeah. He's like, "Look, you come back here in the morning and we'll talk. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll put the word out, you come back here, and then that's it. That's all I'm gonna give you. And if I think for a second you're fucking with us, you're fucking done. Alright, sunshine?"
Like I said, I just want him safe.
He sort of nods and then heads back through the bar. Alright? You follow him through?
I wait a minute and then come back and through.
Cool. As you walk in, you hear the sound of glass breaking. And you hear, "Listen here, you fucking cunt! I don't want to be talking to you about this shit. Why don't you piss off?" And this is one of the fellas talking to Victor.
You try to intimidate me, old man. You better sit down before I slice your throat up like a fucking can of worms.
When you say that, you see that these other old fellas, they've got that whole used to be hard in their 20s and still think they're hard in their 50s vibe about them. But when you do say that, the whole bar goes quiet because you've made a threat of significant violence. And you've seen Maynard, the only person who's not looking concerned. I won't say how Lorenz is looking. Everyone else is looking concerned and like with a significant interest towards this. The only person who isn't is Maynard, who's looking like he's enjoying himself for the first time today. Maria, the servant girl, rushes out to the kitchen, out back behind the bar. And then the old fella is like, "Look, you lot have been in here asking fucking questions for weeks. What we got to tell you so you know we ain't fucking talking to you. Why don't you take that big red nose of yours and piss off?"
Alright, fella. If you think that's how it's gonna be, that's how it's gonna be. And Victor stands up from the table. He's like, I don't need to mess with the kinds of you. You're louts. Nothings. Useless little old bastards. And he just leaves. He has no interest in continuing the conversation.
As you leave, it's like, go on, walk away, coward. And you hear Maynard snigger.
Oh no.
Go on, old boy, walk away.
Okay, this is when I usually would roll against the passion to see what I do. Let's see what goes through his head here. Just give me a second. There's no need for deadly violence. He's doing that.
No need for it, but I want it.
No. What? Victor just goes up to this guy, just sort of looks at him and is like, if you want to fight, go ahead, boy. But it's not going to be a good idea. And he looks at all, he looks at all of them, and he doesn't look afraid either.
Roll intimidate.
Lorenzo's just going to like sort of pipe at the back, like, if you got to do it outside, please.
Yeah,
disappointed dad voice.
Well, at least I'm, so to speak, creating a distraction for your private conversation.
Yeah, that's not. People aren't going to talk about me. That's great.
Yeah. So, okay, what should I roll?
Intimidate.
I'm very bad at intimidation. This is one of those things I don't like about this game. But yes.
I tell you what, we'll do the split the difference thing again, and we'll go 8 because you've got mercenary at 10. So we'll combine the two.
18.
18. Okay. It should kind of be an opposed roll, but there's not really. I don't know how you oppose intimidation when there's no stats to do it. So
grip.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He didn't roll very well, and so this guy sort of starts. Yeah, you can see he's not keen to call you on that, and he backs down a wee bit, but he's like, look, we ain't telling you shit, all right? Real Strasslanders don't talk, so you just need to fucking go. He's lost a bit of the fire, but he's trying to be brave.
You tell yourself that, old man. There's not going to be any of that. Just starts leaving.
Okay.
We've already got the information we need. I don't need to start an actual brawl if I don't have to.
You don't know that about the information, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually very true. That's actually
if there's a moment of pause, Lorenzo's going to be like, Victor, outside. Come on. We're good.
Fine. It's not like and he sort of tugs at his blade and it's like, it's not like I was thinking of anything anyway. He goes out.
Alright.
Like, Victor is not afraid of these louts with maybe forks and knives. He has breastplate and a sword that he knows how to use. But, like, he is like, screw it. These are not worth my time or the problems with the guards this would require, and he leaves.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because murder is murder, dude. Like, whether they started it or not. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he would not kill them. He just said he would.
Okay, so you head outside. Maynard doesn't immediately come out to follow.
Right.
I'm assuming.
What did you find out?
Go on. Sorry.
I'm guessing there's an oasis, like there's a bubble of space that we can sort of protect our conversation in outside.
The outside is like a market square, a very busy market square.
So, as in, I'm just trying to avoid eavesdropping. essentially, is what I'm...
Well, it's loud
Is your
enough that
space
you could
moving?
probably have a quiet conversation without people being able to hear you without obviously eavesdropping. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be like, well, I got a meeting with one of his friends or supposed contacts tomorrow, same place. Clearly, we're in the right place. People here know things. Do you hear what those drunken idiots at the bar were saying? Seems like they know something too, they just don't want to say it. So, we can go with the softly approach and wait till tomorrow morning and see where that goes. But I think we might end up having to go with the stamp a little bit of authority if we have to.
Oh, you see, my distraction worked.
Your lie's terrible.
Yeah, it is.
My
It
phrase
is.
is way higher. Like,
Yeah, it is. You immediately realize that he's covering for a thing he's slightly
And then
ashamed
Lorenz
about.
counter lies and says, that's why I sent you up there, to make a distraction while I did the real work.
At this point, a very loud ruckus emerges from the bar. You've moved away from the bar a wee bit, but you hear the door swing open. And a guy comes out. This is a big, meaty-looking guy. He's got exposed torso, although he's wearing like an apron. And his torso is covered in old tattoos and things like that. He's got like an old sailor vibe about him. And he's thrown out onto the street with a very obviously broken nose. And Maynard appears. And Maynard's got like a slight, sort of like a bit of bleeding going on in his lip, but not much. And Maynard comes out and just basically straddles this guy and just starts wailing on him. And he hits him 2 or 3 times really hard before the guy sort of basically gives up. He gives him one last good one just for the road and then stands up and spits on him. And then you can see behind him, standing in the now busted door, a bunch of those locals that you had your run-in with, standing there looking pretty worse for wear as well. And Maynard sort of looks up and goes, He wipes his lip. "There you are, old boy. I found his address. Let's go." And he just walks off through the crowd.
Well, we didn't have to wait till tomorrow, at least. if it's even the real bloody address.
And Victor, he unsheaths his dagger, and then he wipes it of blood that isn't there. As a sort of ritual gesture, for some reason.
Lorenz just sort of goes... Probably gets a big puff of, like, it's greasy clothing now.
So Maynard is walking off.
Well, at least-
Are you gonna follow?
Yeah.
What's the plan here? How are you gonna do this?
Yeah, I guess we're gonna follow.
Okay.
And I guess it's good that it's Maynard becoming incredibly unpopular in this city and not this.
Okay. So what?
It's really annoying because I was getting ready to let Maynard off the leash in the tavern too, but he got there on his own. I didn't have to point him in that direction.
Yeah, it's just like I was playing the character that has a little bit of restraint, and then we have the fucking psychopath go like, "Hey ho." Anyway.
Yeah. So is Lorenz doing his tail thing again? People know that you guys are together at this point, so you're just walking together. Or
Yeah,
what
but
are you doing?
he's always doing that. He's always trying to make sure he's not being followed.
Okay. Okay. Roll a spot roll.
$14.
14? Okay. So Maynard sort of weaving his way through Old Town. You sort of see him stop and look up at street signs written in a language he barely understands, and occasionally sort of looks around frustrated as he's trying to find his way through it. He sort of starts heading into, occasionally he stops and goes, "You there?" And he's asking for directions to an address or like a place. He's actually asking about a butcher. There's a butchery that he keeps asking about, or an abattoir. And confused locals seeing a man with blood on his hands and a split lip with a certain air of authority about him, they sort of just give in. And Maynard's walking with a purpose. Like, you know how you see someone when they are walking with authority, with a purpose, in such a way that even when you pass the patrols of guards and mercenaries, they stop and they note him walking. But none of them seem particularly interested in going up to the guy and being like, "You stop," because he's walking in a way that's like, "I am in command and I know what I'm doing." These days, to walk like this fella, you need to have a clipboard and a high vis, and you walk into any work site you want to work into. Imagine that with
hard hat optional.
Yeah, imagine that with a touch of violence. That's what we've got going on here. And he's just telling people, where is this place? Yeah, tell me where this place is, and they tell him, and he is just making his way through town, remarkably, easily. If people don't tell him straight away, he turns to the next person and asks them, and very quickly it sort of just seems to work. And you guys are running along behind him, and that is when Lorenz notices you are absolutely being followed. The speed in which this guy is moving and the speed at which you're having to sort of walk uncomfortably fast to keep up means that the person tailing you, they look exceedingly normal. They look like someone of the lower classes, but tidy enough to pass in the middle class areas. They are dressed down in just very basic clothing. They have like a basic townsfolk look about them. It's a male. He has a groomed beard, or like a light, like not very long beard, not much different to your own, Sean, actually. And is just sort of making his way behind you. He looks like he's maybe in his 30s, and he's having to walk uncomfortably fast to keep up. There's something about this deliberate pace of Maynard has made discreet surveillance almost impossible.
We've heard Maynard mention the butcher, like, where is this? He's mentioned the butcher in the name, right? We've overheard him.
Yeah, he's asking for like a certain, like he's named, where is, he's throwing a name out, or where is, the so and so butchers, and the name he keeps asking so for is Bogdan. Bogdan's butcher. Where is it?
Bogdan's butcher.
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing that that's the location Maynard's going to end up, as we're progressing, Lorenz is going to say to Victor, "Now, don't look behind, don't look alarmed or nothing. I've been tailed, and I picked him up. Right, this is what he looks like." And he's going to rattle off the description. He's going to say, "Next sharpish corner we're going to take. We're going to post up round the corner, and we're going to grab him as he comes past."
Right.
Well, I say we, but you're going to do the grabbing.
That's perfectly all right. He just follows along.
We know we're Maynard's.
He knows what
going.
this is.
So at this point, you're in the warrens of Old Town. You're no longer along the main streets. Here, buildings sort of lean in over the streets quite heavily, and like you're coming in through areas where it's quite tight and dense and barely wide enough for a wagon to get through. Occasionally, it opens up a bit more. A couple of wagons could pass. Occasionally, it even gets small enough down some of these alleys that two people struggle to get past each other. It's a proper warren. There's buildings that have been built upon buildings. Old foundations reused for new buildings. It's a mess. And in here, it's quite easy for you to sort of set up a bit of an ambush. So you go around a corner, and the plan is to post up, and as soon as the guy comes around, you catch him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure. And when you catch him, what's your plan? Is it to grab him? What is it you're trying to do? How are you doing
It's
this?
to grab him.
Okay.
To restrain him. To get him under control.
Okay.
To intimidate him with the threat of imminent violence by snatching him off the street.
All right.
To be very specific.
I don't know if there's any point asking the fellow who wrote the game, who's written for the game. Does this game use advantage or disadvantage at all?
Not
Just
really.
modifiers.
Just modify.
Okay.
As far as I understand it. We've never used advantage.
Okay.
I play.
Yeah, I can't see anything in here along those lines. Okay.
Is it just like you just use a modifier? Is it you just go plus?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can get modifiers according to the benefit of your situation, basically. As far as I understand, rerolls do not exist really in this game.
Okay, look, we'll make a brawl roll. It's opposed. It's going to be at +4 because you're catching the guy unawares, right? So that because you don't have brawling, but it does put you up to 9. As you sort of catch the jump on this guy as he comes around the corner.
That's my brawling too. I've got 9. So do we get 2 attempts at this because it's both of us going for it, or?
Well, actually, yeah, I'm not sure if the game has any idea what you do when multiple people are going at it. Because opposed combat in this is opposed, right? So if you try and fail, it hurts you. That's how it works. Am I correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, more or less.
And that's right. And if you're the active party, it's a +5 to your roll. Is that correct?
Yeah, defending is worse than attacking.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, in that case, whoever, like you both get a go at it. That's fine. So whoever's going first, who's going first?
I can do it.
Victor's probably going first.
So you're catching a guy by surprise. So that'll be a
backup.
+4, and I believe because it's an opposed, like a combat roll. Let me just quickly double check. 73 is the page. You guys are going first, obviously. Whoever initiates the attack gains a +5 to their skill. So you're actually getting +9 to your brawling roll in total to brawl the guy. You rolled very well though, so you need it.
23.
23. That's unfortunate. So you jump on the guy, you go to get him, he actually beat you by fucking 1. And, you jump on the guy, and you go to get him, and there's something. This guy is clearly used to this, right? Like this, you've caught someone who's got a bit of close combat skill. So you do get the jump on him, but he very quickly sort of manages to slink his arms up around your head and gets a knee up into your stomach.
Wait.
Wait.
Did you say +9?
Yes.
I'm just gonna check a thing very, very quickly.
Okay, you do your thing.
Five. Yeah, I'm correct.
Okay. I'm not sure what unarmed damage is in this though. Unarmed casual 1d6 -2 crushing. Okay, so he does 2 points of damage to you, which I'm fairly certain your armor takes that anyway, right?
Yeah, I soak it automatically.
Yeah. So he
And I soak it on the roll as well.
So he slinks his arms up around your head and shit. And he sort of starts dropping knees into you. This guy's got a bit of skill here, but yeah, he's not given way. But you always do take automatically 1 point of damage if you fail combat, right? Isn't that how damage works?
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Yeah. I think it's always a minimum of 1. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm quite sure it might be.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you definitely take. Yeah, if the deductions reduce the damage to 0, treat it as 1. So yeah, you take 1 point of damage as his knee does sort of wind you a wee bit, ever so slightly. You're taking a blow. Lorenz though, this fella's in front of you. He's grappling. He's got the knees up there. He's clearly, there's something about the way this guy brawls. He knows what he's up to. So what do you do?
I'm not a fighting guy, but there isn't really much to do. Just be a distraction for. Yes, I'm gonna try and brawl him too. My intent is to get him against a wall where we can have like pull. Well, I've only got a dagger on me, but like have something up against him to make him cease struggling, right? Like, it's to maneuver him in a way as to get him not resisting anymore. So whether that's through brawl or bopping over the head. I don't have a blunt weapon, but my blunt's very slightly better. I mean, I guess I could hit him with the hilt of the dagger, right? That would be like a blunt attack. But yeah, either brawl or blunt to have that effect, to get him up against him.
We'll keep it the same as the advantage before, so all up you get a +9 to your roll.
22.
You smash it. So roll damage.
It's the distraction. What is damage?
So you're hitting with the butt of your dagger, yeah?
Yep.
So
the dagger's like...
We'll treat that as like a club, I guess. There's no improvised weapon on here, so we'll treat that as a club, which is 1d6 -1.
I mean, it's fine. 0.
Okay, that's all right. It always averages to 1. So you do hit him. It's a smack on the back of his head, and we go from there.
Like I said, the intent isn't really to hurt him; it's to get him to a position where he's not to struggle.
Yeah.
To realise he's pinned and trapped.
Okay.
And now with a dagger to his face. And at this point, Lorenz is going to be like, I suggest you stop squirming, you little shit.
So I gave you that round for free because it was an ambush. So we're now switching over to regular rounds. So hold on, just quickly double checking the way initiative works.
We haven't had to do... This is the first combat of the entire campaign. And it makes sense.
Okay.
Woohoo.
So because you guys got to jump on it, we'll give you... you guys get to go first now. We alternate between them. So one of you gets to go first, then he will go first, then the other one of you, and we're going to keep alternating that way. So you guys, because you outnumber him, have a pretty significant advantage there. But obviously there's always a risk when you fight. There's a chance he may win the opposed roll. So... who of you two are going first?
Victor is being attacked, so I think it makes sense that he will retaliate.
Okay.
He pulls out his sword and he strikes at his legs, trying to get him down as quickly as possible.
The flat of the blade or the sharp end of the blade?
He strikes with the sharp of the blade.
Okay.
Because he's being attacked. But he also has no real intention of killing him.
So now,
I mean, I'm just saying.
The only advantage you get this time, because there's no more ambush anymore and all of that sort of stuff, and the outnumbering advantage you get naturally comes out because of how initiative works. So we'll just treat it as like basically a flat attack roll. So that's +5 to whoever's initiating the attack, and you're hitting him with your sword.
That's a good 28.
Roll damage. Okay.
That's a lot of damage.
You strike his leg quite considerably. And he sort of, he feels that. That hurts. That hurts a lot. He's not particularly happy with that. He is still standing though.
And also, as Victor strikes him, he says, "You better," because he isn't struggling to hit him. He's like, "You better cease. This will be your last fight, boy."
I mean, we've both made it very clear. We've given him warning to cease. So, I mean,
yeah, I'm saying it again.
This is the police yelling, "Stop resisting." Before we... Okay, maybe that might get a little bit too political, but anyway.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah. I'll end it there. We're just yelling at him, stop resisting. Stop resisting!
There's no rules in here for disengaging from combat, but you are both sort of struggling with him, so I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be an easy thing. So you've struck him with your blade. At this point, neither of you are really grappling him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him attempt to brawl Sean's character, the smaller of the two. What he's really trying to do is push Sean away so he can flee. And if he achieves this, if he achieves this roll, there'll be no real damage. It's just him forcing you out of the way. Is sort of my ruling on this front, to try and get away. You will have a chance. This is basically whether or not you contain him here or this becomes a chase. This is basically where we're going with this. All right. So let's do a opposed roll. You don't necessarily need to oppose him with your brawling. You can oppose him by trying to stab him if you want. Like, that's fine. He's just using brawling on you to get you out of the way.
I did strike him quite considerably in the leg.
Yeah.
But I know it doesn't actually do anything.
Well,
which is the thing that annoys
me.
me.
I will factor it into the I'm factoring it into things here. The result. Yeah.
See, I don't feel like the system really encourages you to use non-combat skills in combat. As like, if you're hitting somebody, you're hitting somebody. It's you know, it's a thing. You can't be like, well, his leg's weak, so I'm appraising to see where I can just hit it, so just send him straight onto the ground. I can't do stuff like that.
No.
So, I guess I'm just brawling.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm blunt. I'm whacking him with the back end of the flat of the dagger.
Roll your attack. Your defense.
And it's flat, right?
Yes.
6. 12. There's no way he doesn't beat that.
Yeah, he smashes that actually. So he sort of pushes you out the way and runs. Is that running limp, right? Where you've got a fucked leg. And he goes running off down into these warrens, bleeding heavily though. So you have a choice here. Do you pursue him? Do you let him leave? Because obviously he's probably not going to follow you anymore. Do you track him? Because he's bleeding everywhere. This is like, I need a quick decision because it's technically you're going around. Lorenz. So quickly, what is Lorenz's plan here, having been pushed out the way and this guy's fleeing?
But he's already out of sight, right?
He's off down these warrens. You could chase him. He's literally just gone around that corner. You know where he is. But
how hurt did he look?
Significantly hurt. Yeah.
Do I think I could catch him because he's limping? Do I think I can catch him if I sprinted after him and I don't know how, would I be able to catch him and make an attack in one round?
Is this something this?
Do I think that? Because if I don't think I can do that, Lorenz would not. Because he doesn't really want it to make a chase unless he can catch him really quick. Like, he thinks he can catch him really quick.
We'll put it down to an opposed athletics roll, right? If you beat his athletics, which is going to be a significant disadvantage because of the leg, right? Then you catch him, in which case you can he hasn't really gotten away. You can sort of keep going at him. Yeah.
Okay, well, considering that you did strike his legs, he's going to attempt to catch up because he doesn't think he can quite get out of the way. Not that my athletics is any good, but you'll get to.
I'm basically not giving him any modifiers because of the blow. It's just a flat D20 roll, so it's just chance for him, really.
Right. So I'm slightly more likely to succeed than he is.
Yep.
I think you know what I rolled there.
Was that a 1?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's going very well today.
This is gonna sound really like. So, what happens in the game if you roll a 1? Is there fumbles in the system?
There's a thing called Mighty Blow, which Ibram argues is something that makes it. Like, it can make something go. You lose control of the situation, basically.
Yeah, but that's only if you get
and he applies
3 times by the enemy, right? Yeah. Look, actually, to be honest, a 1 What is? He didn't roll great. I'm going to say this right now. What is your athletics?
It would be 6, I think.
6.
My athletics, it's 5.
Okay, it's a draw. If you spend 1 point of luck,
I'll spend.
You'll catch him. Okay, so it is not
Easiest luck spend in my life.
this is not a pretty chase, right? Like he's stumbling off, he's limping, he's pushed you out the way. This is not like a very
Probably winded me when he pushed me away.
this
Maybe
is not an
me
elegant
involved.
fight. The most impressive thing in this entire thing was him reacting to Victor trying to tackle him. He was actually like, oh, okay, this guy's, when you don't, I mean, I've actually been there as a doorman. You throw someone on the ground thinking you've got them, and next thing you know, oh, this guy knows how to fight, right? It's quite intimidating. So Victor had that moment of being caught off guard by this guy's ability, and then the next impressive thing that happened was the blow to the leg, and everything since then has been dirty, mucky, street level shit. You're running after him, you're sort of slipping through the fucking the dirty, slippery pavements, sliding even on a bit of his blood that his wounded legs left behind, and you're sort of reaching out for
Is
him.
it awkward, like side slip?
Yeah.
Like as one foot goes and you sort of go.
Yeah, and you're sort of grabbing a hold of the fucking corner as you go around it. Like you're pulling yourself through this place as much as you're elegantly running through it. And he is stumbling around the corner when you come up behind him. What do you do?
Smack him over the back of the head.
Another blunt attack.
Kick him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Roll
Essentially, I'm trying to get him on the ground.
roll your thing.
Blunt. Wait a second.
It's +5 for attacking.
Oh my god. +5 for attacking. So that's plus 11. So 12.
12. He rolled a 1, so even with his modifier, you still succeeded. Roll damage. It's d6 minus 1.
1.
1. Okay.
Back to rolling like normal, Liam. I had a good run, and now I'm back to my normal rolls.
Okay. We're at the you've damaged him. It's still 1 point of damage. So you smack him over the head with your and at this point I'm imagining you guys are like in a heap, right? Like you're in a heap on the
it's
ground.
just a scuffle.
You've smacked him. This is the nastiest, dirty, street level back alley fucking scrap you've seen. This is not
I'm at home.
the
This is like
heroic
being
shit
bigger again.
that you might see in Dungeons and Dragons. This is a nasty, dirty back alley. You're rolling around in a fucking pile of horse shit right now, right? And it's Victor's go. What does Victor do?
Victor chases after and he sees them brawling. He pulls out his pistol, pulls it up to him and says, "You stop or I shoot you in the stomach, boy."
Okay. Okay.
It sounds like intimidation or command.
I would say this is a pretty clear command, actually. It's either you do this or I shoot you in the face.
You don't need to roll for it. He'll stop. He doesn't challenge you for a moment. He's seeing this pistol. He's holding on to Lorenz, right? Like, and he just sort of lets go. He just sort of lies there, and he's staring very pointedly at the end of the pistol.
Made that way fucking harder than it needed to be.
He doesn't say anything.
Sorry about the leg. Now you tell us what you know. This one. And he sort of starts, fiddling a little bit, showing bad trigger discipline.
He doesn't say anything. He just looks at you briefly and looks back at the pistol with his hands up.
Why are you fooling us?
Doesn't say anything.
Does he look like a Strasslander or like a Eastern?
He's definitely got a bit of a Slavic look to him.
Well, I guess we have to deal with this later. And Victor goes up and smacks him in the face.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, you can knock him out if you want. Yeah, absolutely. You just smack him and he is out.
Because Maynard is also going towards our main objective, and if he gets there too much and gets too much time, he might fuck everything up. So I
That's
don't
why I
have
want to turn
time.
this into a chase.
Yeah, I wanted this to be quick, and it's not. That's why I also sliced at him with the blade.
His leg is in
doesn't have
very
time.
bad shape. If it's
Where are we located?
Yeah.
We're in the Warren.
yeah,
We're in the old.
you're in Old Town.
But how close are we to for instance, the embassy?
Ooh, yeah, a wee distance. The other thing as well is getting an unconscious bleeding man through town without drawing negative attention is going to be very difficult.
He won't talk. We
Well,
have to deal with Maynard.
Well, I think we can make an easy way of making him not talk. The question is, do we let him live or not? We got to answer this one real quick.
I don't have time for this. You deal with him. I'll go after Maynard, and he starts walking towards the direction he last saw Maynard.
How noticed was us in this alley in this scuffle?
Roll a luck roll, Sean.
That's 20 plus 6. Wait, do you add them? Do you add the thing?
Yeah,
to your luck?
you're
You do,
rolling
right?
with luck. Yeah.
Yeah. 9.
People are looking at you right now with this guy on the ground. There are witnesses.
Then I just stand and dust myself off and be like, little shit, and spit on him and trudge off.
Fuck, we're losing valuable time. Come on. Maynard might be killing that servant at this very moment.
just
Come on.
before he leaves, he's gonna quickly toss his pockets to see if he's not gonna take any like money or anything. He's just looking for any like a letter, papers. That's it, just papers. And if he doesn't find anything, it's just like a pat down, really.
Victor is already leaving.
That's fine.
Tell you what, Sean, make another luck test.
How low is your luck?
14. It's really low. It's 6.
And you rolled a 14.
I rolled as low as you can possibly roll when we made the characters for luck.
Okay.
Actually, I think I rolled one higher than the lowest you can roll. Yeah, so 14.
Okay. Yeah, no, nothing. His pockets are empty, apart from some money, like literally probably enough funds to get him through a day.
You know, I don't take the money. I just,
and it's the sort of thing which, like, you know, going through, you've done this guy's job. You've been the person who's.
Oh, it looks really practiced.
Yeah.
Like me doing this looks really practiced.
But what I'm also saying is, you've been this guy before. You've been the person whose job it is to watch a place and follow anyone who, you know, and you can tell that this guy, this is just, you know, he's an observer. He's someone whose job it is to follow people. So you leave him here, just abandon him and move on. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So you guys head off. It takes you a while to figure out where you're going. You have to go around and ask, you know.
Probably take a leaf out of Maynard's book. Victor's got blood on his sword. He can just yell.
Well, you go around looking for the confused people reacting to the fact that Maynard's been through here.
The wake of the ship that was Maynard.
It gets to the point where some people see you coming, and at this point expecting that you're following the other guy.
God, we're so easy to track now.
This other Westerner with a big sword.
Although as you do leave, you do hear some behind you. Once you're a distance away from where the scuffle was, you hear yelling. So you get the impression that they're calling for help, right? Which you expect. The guy's there bleeding profusely from a nasty leg wound. Yeah. So there is calls for help going on behind you and stuff like that. And you eventually find this butcher. This Bogdan's butchery, which is like a storefront. A lot of the meat's just hanging in the open on the outside, so it's hanging on hooks for sale. A lot of it's cured meats and things like that. But there is also just some, like, he's chopping up meat outside. There's a shop behind him where it looks like a cool store of sorts, like an abattoir, and there's like a stall outside where some of the stuff is being sold by, you assume, Bogdan, who sort of sees you all coming and sort of looks a bit surprised. There's no sign of Maynard. The store does have some stairs running up the side of it towards what looks like a second story up above.
Living quarters,
quite possibly,
sort of
yeah.
Above the shop living. I mean, wouldn't even bother just go upstairs.
You'd know that this place would be quite cheap to afford. It smells like an abattoir. You head up the stairs and you find the door hanging open, and you see inside Maynard standing amongst chaos. This place is a mirror of Hoffman's that had been heavily tossed, and standing amongst the chaos, looking around, frustrated and angry, is Maynard. And I think this is where we'll leave it. We'll pick up the next session as you search the ruins of Alberic's apartment. So yeah, that's where we'll leave it. And that concludes this episode. Thank you for listening to Valley of Blood. If you like what you've heard and you would like to hear more, please head to mbcast.co for all things Mud and Blood related. We would like to thank Dan Heim for allowing us to use his music for the theme song of this show, as well as some of the atmosphere heard in the episode, as well as story blocks and tabletop audio for much of the sound effects and remaining music. But that is us for now. Tune in 2 weeks for the next episode. Until then, have a good one. Arida.